Folk is not and should not be viewed as a news source. Any names, places, or likenesses mentioned are purely fictional, and any information discussed is purely speculative. Guest opinions are their own and do not reflect those of anyone else. Wherein the Folk is not responsible for content accuracy of any stories that are told or what people do with these stories. This show is vulgar, sometimes graphic, and due to its content, it should not be viewed by anyone actually.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Wearing the Folk. I don't know what the folk that was, but that was a unique one. So I hope everybody's had a great day since we last spoke last night, and we got Stephen with us. Thank goodness. It's about time you pop on.
It's been a while. It was since the weather modification episode.
Yeah. It's been a little while. It sure has. This should be a really fun one here.
There's a lot to unpack.
That's what's going to happen after I get divorced.
You're terrible. So if you're just tuning in, or if you didn't see the promos, if you're here, I'm assuming you saw the promos. We are going to be diving back into Antarctica. Revisiting Antarctica. We did an episode on it years and years and years ago, but there's been so much that's come up in the last couple of years, even. Just tons of craziness. It's going to take us a while to get through it all, but I
put money that there's going to be things that we're going to not cover that people want us to cover too.
Yeah. That's the good point. If you can think of anything that you want us to speculate on, just put it in the chat. Speaking of the chat, hey Landa, Abe, and Harry.
Yep. Hey guys. Welcome to Wearing the Folk. But before we get started, you said you wanted to update from what we were talking about yesterday, which was the most recent UAP report. So I'll go ahead and let you do that.
Yeah, so on yesterday's Friday Night Live show, rather than covering strange news from around the world, we ended up covering the congressional hearing from Thursday on UFO UAP sightings. There was an update that came out.
My mic is in any trouble.
So there was an update that came out by the Canadian government.
Yes.
There you are.
Canadian government. It was actually the Canadian police that I'm assuming the Royal Mounted Police. They released documents that says the police themselves collected the debris of an octagonal shaped UFO that was shot down by a United States F-16 fighter jet. Documents came out yesterday, but the event actually took place on February 12th, 2023. They said that they described it, like I said, as an octagon with strings hanging off of it. And if you think about all of the reports of quote unquote jellyfish UFOs, like that would totally sound like a jellyfish UFO to me.
So with that right there, would that actually be an alien ship, or would that be a life form that actually lives in the atmosphere?
No idea.
To me, it sounds like life form.
Yeah.
Like in Nope.
Like in Nope, just like in Nope, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, they just confirmed that they recovered it from the shores of Lake Huron. And that they're working close in collaboration with domestic and international partners in furthering the investigation. And as the investigation is ongoing, additional details cannot be provided at this time. So it's just like, it's almost like it's in lockstep with all of this disclosure that, I don't think it's a coincidence that our neighbors next door all of a sudden just start admitting that they're finding UFOs.
I got a question to pose to everybody. What would you do if a UFO landed on your property?
Like how big?
Yeah.
Like the mothership? I'll probably get out of there.
Like the size of a 1972 Lincoln.
With one of those, I wouldn't be quite as concerned about it. But if it was one like a friend of mine from Texas, so see, I'm trying to think. This probably would have been in the early 90s. I think he's a little bit younger than I am, so it would have been like 91, 92. Yeah. And he saw him and some of his buddies. They saw one. It was so big they had to walk out from underneath it to look at each end of it. It was bigger than yeah.
That's wild. Get off my lawn.
Yeah. That's what I'd be saying. Get off my property.
Harry, that's funny. That's funny too. You know, I think about that though, Stephen. Well, and even what Cecil's saying about the different sizes, but I know you guys have heard this, but Skinwalker Ranch, they see UFOs there all the time, and the people who have been like the wardens of the property, they've done brain scans on them, and there's literal brain damage from these sightings and events that they're having. So I would be afraid, because my first instinct, if it was just the size of a car, I'd walk up to it.
Right.
But who knows what kind of radiation you get exposed to, or unknown factors.
Hey, buddy, I eat shrimp. It's packed full of radiation. So
and so then there's another story out of Oklahoma. It was out in, I guess, kind of western Oklahoma. Robert, can't remember the guy's. I can't remember his name right now. He plays for the Jets. He suffered a spinal injury, and it ended his football career. But anyway, he used to do coyote hunts with another guy from Oklahoma who went to a lot of them, made his own calls and all that. And they saw one of those classic Roswell type UFOs that landed like 30 feet in front of the pickup one night while they were out taking pictures of coyotes. He would call them in and hold his glide on them and take pictures of them. And this craft landed in front of the truck, and that guy, he was done. From that moment on, he never went with that guy again at night to go take pictures of coyotes.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't either. That's terrifying.
To that point, Harry, that someone would be me probably.
Yeah. I mean, you got to do something. Like, I'm trying to train myself that if I ever see anything like this again, because Cecil and I were together one day driving to work, maybe 15 years ago, and saw an anomaly in the sky, a cigar-shaped UFO.
Yeah.
And it was very bizarre. Like, we both just stood in awe.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to train myself if something like that were to ever happen again, cryptids, ghosts, UFOs, or otherwise. I just want my instinct to be to try to get a clear picture or something, or a clear video.
Well, I've already said that I'm going to quit giving totally crap over not filming the ghost at the graveyard, because of the simple fact that me and my wife were driving back from town. This has only been a couple months ago. And she's like, "What is that?" And I look up, and it's a friggin' UFO right in the middle of town. I was like, "Oh my God, get your phone." And I just whipped over and parked while I was looking at it the whole time. But when I whipped over, I took my eyes off of it. And as soon as I got out, it's gone. Couldn't get
crazy.
it. You know,
what did it look like?
It looked like just a big, bright, huge light right there in the middle of town. That's all it was. There was no sound. There wasn't a helicopter.
Well, I saw Easy Mac commented again on yesterday's episode, and was heckling about ball lightning. Like, I'm sure that they was trying to explain that away as ball lightning or something.
There was a show with Jack Osborne and Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne where they watch like UFO videos, crypto videos, and every time Ozzy was like, "Oh, it's ball lightning." It might be a kickback to that. Yeah. But yeah, the UFO stuff is really creepy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, was it last spring or maybe maybe 2 years ago. It's 2 years ago now. I was at work one morning. It's like 4:00 in the morning, and I was just, of course, I'd done some calls and stuff like that, and I really didn't get any responses. So I was just watching the sky. I was watching this light go across the sky like that, and it got to one certain spot. It just goes straight up. I'm talking. It did a 90-degree turn and went straight up out of sight. It was just, that was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. It's
well, just like they said in that hearing, if these things can go, Mach 1,000, like I'm sure that they could blast across the sky like nothing.
Right.
I want one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like, I'm inclined to think that they're not manned unless there's some kind of stabilizer on board that humanity just can't fathom that kills the G's.
Have you ever watched Star Trek? I mean, they survive it.
Yeah.
You're right.
So I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a crazy world, and it's weird how they have dropped all this on us. And I seen a video. You remember the balloon that was in Canada that we shot down? I don't remember.
Yeah.
There was a few balloons.
Yeah. One
over a couple-week period.
Yeah.
One new Canada.
Oh yes. The new one that someone has a picture of it now. I wish I would have got it. I didn't know he was going to talk about this long. But they got a picture of it, and it's a UFO. Like, there's no other way to explain it. It's unidentified, and it's a flying object. That's what I'm trying to say. It definitely wasn't a balloon, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get into today's topic, which is the cold, dark under. And the southernmost and least populated continent in the world, if you believe mainstream articles, will be the topic of discussion tonight. Antarctica. It's surrounded by the Southern Ocean, also known as the Antarctic Ocean.
I agree, Easy Mac. Hey, I didn't realize you were here. You popped in. Yeah, I agree with that completely. He said, for everybody listening, he said that something that powerful could be powered by antimatter, but it's probably a distraction, and that's.
Oh yeah, I think that's where we're at.
I think that's where we're all at.
So the landmass of Antarctica is 5,500,000 square miles. The population ranges from 1,300 to 5,100, given the season. Right now, there are 7 nations that actually have territorial claims. That's Argentina, Australia, Chile, France, New Zealand, Norway, and the United Kingdom. United States, Peru, Russia, South Africa have all reserved rights to claim territory in the future. But there is a strange thing here with the treaty that came along, which Tully can talk about the treaty if he wants to go into it. This is all the nations that kind of have their hands in it, in a way. As you can see, for the most part, everybody's got a little something to do with it. Non-party UN member states and observers right here is Africa, the Middle East, what is this?
New Zealand?
That's China, I think.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Mexico. But, they all have something to do with it anyway.
Sure is.
So it's kind of strange that in a world where we are always battling each other over pieces of land, everybody has kind of agreed, hey, we'll go ahead and share this one. Let's just share.
Yeah, that's kind of the oddity about Antarctica is all of the nations of the world, almost all of them, have agreed that on a specific set of rules about Antarctica, and we can't get along on anything.
Right.
Like, we've had wars, over stupid stuff, and some over very serious stuff. But the one thing we can all agree on, even if we're at war with another country, is Antarctica. Mm-hmm. But I think it really starts with Admiral Richard Byrd.
Yes.
So he was an explorer and a veteran, and he actually made, good Lord, he made trips to the North Pole.
Yeah, he went all over.
He was in both world wars, and He did a transatlantic flight, but his Antarctica expeditions began in 1929 and spanned all the way up until 1956. There's a lot going on because obviously World War II happened in there as well. But before Admiral Byrd started going to Antarctica, it was really only smaller teams that would go on these expeditions.
Mhm.
But by the time he did his final Antarctic expedition, he was taking like 50, 60 people with him.
Yeah.
And
And
go ahead.
One thing about this whole thing too is there's always speculation on why there's mystery behind Antarctica. People's like, well, people can go there, it's really hard to get there, and it's because of the terrain. And if the terrain sometimes settles down to where you can take boats. I know there's a girl on YouTube that's apparently did a solo mission there. But that you have to have some kind of permission, because if the weather doesn't get you and the waves don't get you and the ice shells just randomly floating around the ocean don't get you, then the army, the militaries of the world know you're there. They know you're coming. And I know it's kind of strange that think anything nefarious maybe happened, but with the most recent UAP disclosure, it might not be as damn crazy as you think it is.
Yeah.
And we got a little ditty to play for you from the man that Tully was just talking about when he was interviewed. We're only going to play a little of it.
Let me, before you do that, let me just say that, like, his last, there's a few operations in here, like Operation High Jump, which we'll talk about, and then Operation Deep Freeze, which was it was Admiral Byrd's last trip to Antarctica in 1956. And that Operation Deep Freeze was meant to install permanent bases in Antarctica, or so they say. I personally tend to lean toward that there are already bases in Antarctica by the time that was going on. But so in 1956, they do deep freeze. Between 1956 and 1957, Admiral Byrd does the interview that Cecil's about to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1957, he dies.
Yeah.
After this interview.
So right here's the interview. We'll go ahead and play.
Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Middle America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
challenge.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom of the world.
Now, the reason that we play that video, and everybody's going to say the same thing, that's just the Admiral Byrd thing. Nobody else has anything else to say. It's pretty significant. This was a decorated war hero, and like entrusted with multiple operations for any kind of exploration around the world. And he just said beyond the pole is an area the size of the United States that's been left unexplored. What is he talking about? Is he talking about, the western part of the Antarctica? Is there a western part of Antarctica? It's right at the bottom. But it's really a unique situation. And the thing about it is, there are several reasons why they say we shouldn't go there. To protect the environment is the main one, because of pollutions from ships and wildlife disruption, and it's a fragile environment, and non-native species and bacteria, which that's all fine and good, but there are accounts of a lot of different things being there, and I firmly believe that there was some kind of highly advanced civilization that lived on Antarctica at one point in time.
They probably still do. I mean, the report that he came back with, with those craft that they encountered, That was certainly more advanced than anything that we knew of at that time.
Yeah. So in Operation High Jump, there's a really famous story where they're on their way through the frozen sea to Antarctica, and they actually get approached by UFOs.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's referred to as the Battle of Antarctica because they were actually in a firefight with multiple UFOs.
It was a firefight.
Yeah.
From Boondock Saints.
Yeah. And whenever Admiral Byrd came back, he did warn of a possibility of invasion. And he put a lot of stuff into his journal. After he died, super eerily close to these interviews, his son eventually went on to inherit this journal. He started talking from the journal, and his son also died.
Yeah.
Is how that went.
Well, the one that was the most fascinating is his trip to Middle Earth, really. So during Operation High Jump, which High Jump was, just basically to test out equipment. But sure enough, he found the entrance to what he claimed was Hollow Earth. And as he went into this descent into this entrance, he began to see things that were just completely unimaginable in Antarctica. He's seen beautiful green lush land. He's seen creatures that resembled a lot like a woolly mammoth, just running in herds.
Yeah.
And all at once, he lost control of his plane. His plane started flying itself. Now, you would think that he would have went back in time, seeing woolly mammoths and things like this, which is just as believable as anything else, I believe. However, at this point, flying saucers surrounded his ship, and they had swastikas on them. Now, we'll get to that later.
It'll be interesting when we talk about Mustache Man.
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that here in a minute, so don't tune off because of swastikas. So it turns out they just guided him to the ground, and what he's seen were, what we kind of depict as aliens is one account I read. Others were that they were blue-eyed, white-haired people, and they proceeded to take him to what they called the Master. The Master, by a lot of accounts, was what we refer to in the community as a tall white, which is when the grays get older, they get longer and fragile and unstable, but they're highly intelligent. And the tall white basically scolded him for humanity's use of the big bombs we dropped over there in Japan. Some say they're nuclear. I don't think they were. I'm pretty sure they were hydrogen. I don't know, though. I'm not a war enthusiast. I don't read into it, but and then they just kind of let him go. And from that, Hollow Earth, the theory of it was really encrusted in a lot of minds of conspiracy theorists, I guess you would call it.
Well, we talked about, I think we hit on this briefly yesterday, but like that movie, Godzilla versus King Kong, the depiction in that movie of Hollow Earth, is very similar to the descriptors used to depict Hollow Earth in these accounts.
I got so excited I forgot one key point. When he was being escorted, he seen a city made of crystal. He called it the Rainbow City. So I think it plays into like those stupid ass movies. What are they? Lord of the Rings.
Don't you dare call Lord of the Rings stupid. That's one of the greatest movies ever created, and greatest books too ever created.
But the whole swastika thing, if you don't know, Hitler adopted that. The swastika originally meant like, what was it that it meant? Like something about peace or something in the Buddhist tradition. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember off the rip.
But
you have to look that one up.
Yeah.
Well-being is what it actually stood for.
Well-being.
I mean, it was Sanskrit is where you get part of the word swastika originated from. Well, that we know what part of the world Sanskrit's from, which is a Indo-European language. There were also some areas in Africa that used the swastika, and there were also tribes in like Arizona and New Mexico that used the swastika on their stuff. So it was a worldwide thing.
It'd be like if like a terrorist organization adopted that S that everybody draws in notebooks.
Slipknot is, yeah.
It'd be like that. And then,
I'll be honest though, there's no coming back for a symbol once it's been used for something like that.
Agreed.
Yeah, nobody used that mustache look anymore either. So,
Michael Jordan did it once.
So ever since 1947, there have been claims that Germany, World War II Germany, set up bases on Antarctica or in Antarctica.
I couldn't find it this time, but the last time we did this episode, I found where they had uncovered a bust of not Stalin, but Lenin. Was it Lenin before Stalin?
Yeah, Lenin won.
They had
oh,
go ahead, Stephen.
So what you're saying is that they found a bust of Uncle Joe?
Yeah.
Antarctica.
Yeah, they found a bunker and it had a bust of Lenin there. So I mean that was pre-Stalin.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Lenin.
They were there.
Wow.
So
that's
I
crazy.
wonder if I can find that now.
So this theory, while you're looking for that, so it was proposed in 1947, and I'm going to butcher this name bad. Ladislas Sabo, who was a Hungarian exile in Argentina, claimed that Hitler survived the war and that U-boats docked in Argentina after the war had dropped him off. We've all heard the theory that he escaped to Argentina, but he also proposed that there was a German ship called Schwabenland that sailed to Antarctica in 1938, had set up a base there.
Yeah, that's what they called the spot in Antarctica, was New Schwabenland.
Okay. Well, I guess that makes more sense then.
Yeah, that's what they called it.
And it turns out that the U.S. eventually confirmed that the events in this story were real, except for the part about the Nazi base. So that's why I say, like, if they, like, you think about Project Paperclip, where so many Germans after World War II, like their scientists and, rocket engineers, all that good stuff, they all came and integrated into the United States, into NASA and other parts. NASA was actually co-founded with one of them. But if there were already like a base infrastructure set up on the plateaus of Antarctica, they totally would have just used those, or like took them over.
Yeah, according to the In Search of Hitler.
Right, there he is.
Wow.
And that's supposed to be in Antarctica, you said?
It's supposed to be in Antarctica.
Yeah,
That looked like a snow desert to me. So why is that there? Everybody says that we were.
With that right there.
Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, with that, yes, a lot of the German scientists that went to Russia, they came to America, but there were also German scientists that went to Argentina, and you'll find, if you search deep enough, you'll find blonde-haired, blue-eyed twins that were born in Argentina.
Oh, yeah.
And Kennedy, he did the series In Search of Hitler a few years back. They found pretty good evidence, that Hitler was actually there in Argentina, evidently before they went on to Antarctica. So
yeah, that's basically what this guy was saying too, is that the boat that went to Antarctica took off from Argentina, right. the German boat or ship, and kind of interwoven within all of this, there was declassified CIA files that came out a few years back, I think in 2018, and they revealed that apparently the Nazis had a flying saucer, quote unquote, super weapon.
The Horn brothers, right?
That they thought could go up to 2,500 miles an hour, which is, it's not as fast as the ones we were talking about yesterday. But if you think about something going that fast back in World War II era, if that had continued to be developed, and I'll share a picture here. Let me share the screen.
Ooh.
So it looks like a very classic descriptor of a UFO, or what people describe, flying saucers. This was a prototype. But yeah, they apparently were developing that as a super weapon during World War II. And, on the flip side of that, they were going to Antarctica. They were doing all these things. And then when Byrd hits Antarctica, he gets attacked by flying saucers with swastikas on them. So to me, like, given the timelines, if the Nazis had set up a base in Antarctica and they already had this quote unquote super weapon, the saucers could have totally been Nazis and not another civilization.
I mean, it could have been for sure, but that's just one of the many reasons why I think Antarctica is still very unexplored, like, to our knowledge. Like, they go down there for research, they want to check core samples and stuff like this. And there's a real thought, and it's a thought that I've had as well, that the bases they've set up there in like World War II or even before, they didn't set them up, they were already there. And it's completely possible that's from an ancient civilization, because if you really look at the topographical map, there's all kinds of evidence of things like this, which, everybody says that's erosion. It's pretty good erosion to make it afford, like, just like the pyramids where it's even on all sides. And right there's another one. And right here, this was actually on a Netflix documentary called Pepsi Where's My Jet, when they went to Antarctica to go hiking. What's this in the background? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and it's not stupid. Like, it's not a stupid thought, especially if you believe in traditional science that says that everything was one continent.
Yeah.
Like, there would have been, it would have been closer to the equator. It wouldn't have been frozen over. There could have totally been a civilization living there. And there's pyramids all over the world. So I think it's crazy. Well, I know why they would say it. Like, they don't want people going there. And I never did talk about the treaty. So a year before, or a year after Admiral Byrd mysteriously, or not mysteriously, they have a reason for his death. But right after that interview, he passes. And then about a year later, the Antarctica Treaty comes out. And that was in, it was signed in 1958 or 59, but it didn't come into force until 1961. But it demilitarized, it says that it demilitarizes Antarctica for scientific cooperation, and that there's territorial sovereignty, nuclear restrictions, transparency, environmental protections, and international collaborations. It was initially signed by 12 countries, which was Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, South Africa, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Today, there are 56 parties, including 29 voting members who conduct substantial research in Antarctica, and 27 non-consulting voting members. And I'm assuming that's like each country would have a representative. But the treaty is managed through the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meetings, the ATCM, which are held annually among 56 countries.
Now, one thing that should raise eyebrows about this is this was signed in the 50s and brought into a thing in the 60s, and Russia and the United States signed on it during the heats of the Cold War when they would have done anything to get intelligence from the other one. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they if you look up like why people aren't allowed to go, you'll find stuff like safety concerns. They want to protect the environment from human activity, but they're not doing this. They're literally clear cutting rainforests. Like if they cared about like the ecosystem and environment so much, like they would do it all over the world in these protected places. But even in that same interview that Cecil had pulled up a minute ago, Admiral Byrd said that there were several key resources that they had observed while they were traveling. Some of them were fossil fuels. He talks about a mountain that he saw made of coal. He stops and he's like, the most significant resource that we confirm being there is uranium. Like apparently a massive uranium deposit down there. But yeah, I think for the same reason that like Graham Hancock gets, quote unquote debunked by the Archaeological Society, I think they're going to try to debunk any aerial views to potential archaeological sites to keep people from going. They don't want people to have a reason to go.
Right. Yeah, that's very true. It's interesting. Some of the things that he saw, that's truly interesting. And the fact that's I agree with what Cecil was saying earlier. To me, that's probably the most bizarre thing is that all these nations seem to have a peace treaty over this one particular spot. That's the oddest thing to me.
And I did dig up a little bit more about his son. So apparently it wasn't just his diary that he had. His son was Richard Evelyn Byrd III, and he was actually a lieutenant commander in the Naval Reserve, and he also accompanied his father during Operation High Jump and more than likely saw some crazy stuff. Yeah. But he was on his way from Boston to Washington, D.C. to give a big speech about his dad at a National Geographic Society event honoring Admiral Byrd. He never made it to D.C. and was found dead in an abandoned warehouse in Baltimore 3 weeks later wearing different clothes than he had on and one shoe. He had died from, they determined he died from malnutrition and dehydration.
Wow.
So how does that happen on your way to talk about what you observed in Antarctica?
Well, he's probably driving through the desert that's located right in between where.
Yeah.
Because there's no towns from that area right there.
Yeah, that big desert outside of Quantico, huh?
Yeah. He tripped.
Yeah.
But they initially just thought it was, someone like a vagrant that had passed in the warehouse because of how, I guess, bad it was, the state of his body when they found it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. To me, there is no such thing as coincidence. No way, no how. I mean, the fact that it seems that he was unalived. If he was good enough mental health that they were going to allow him to come and speak
at the National Geographic Society. Yeah.
He wasn't crazy or anything else, and he didn't do that to himself. It's we've seen something like that in, I don't know, in the past 40 years, 50 years.
Yeah.
How many people how many times have we talked about, especially when it comes to technology or stories coming out, like they don't care one bit to make people go away?
No, sir.
I personally believe that he was probably being monitored and he was preparing to say something about Operation High Jump that maybe they didn't want him to say.
Exactly.
And he was just like, I'm going to say it, and I don't care what you think.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that they didn't find him hanging with a suicide note stapled to his chest and his hands tied behind his back, and somehow he managed to punch 2 holes through his skull, the back of his skull with a cordless hole punch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What are you
those are
looking at?
some of my favorites that are ruled suicides.
I was reading about tomorrow's football game and who's going to win.
What
I
football game?
don't know. I'm just that's how much I know about sports. I don't know what to see.
I just saw you scrolling. I didn't know if you were coming across anything interesting that we haven't talked about.
No, not at all. But I mean, there's probably a lot more to the Antarctica thing. I mean, we got some other things about it too. But as far as why we can't go there and what my personal opinion is, I think that there's something there that they don't want the rest of the world to know about. And they all formed an alliance to keep it protected because it will change the way people see the world. Like Tully was saying, like we showed the pictures of what appeared to be pyramids earlier.
Yeah.
That all the continents were connected at once. Well, yeah, they were. But if you go by mainstream belief, there wasn't people around 200 million years ago when it started separating to pyramids,
Yeah, and there was, if you remember, I think this was on Weird Awakenings, when we talked about Atlantis and Lemuria and Mu, and where those, demi-continents were supposed to have been. It's kind of in line with where Antarctica is. Like if they didn't sink underwater, we talked about a ton of different theories, but
I think they found Mu, didn't they? Finally,
Did
they admit that?
Well, I don't necessarily know they admitted that, but I know that we covered it one night. It's in between Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, that's a huge landmass.
Could have been. Then we talked about the kids that were born, was it in Vietnam or Laos, Cambodia, where sometimes you'll have some kids that are born with blonde hair. Yeah, that's kind of an anomaly to blonde hair kids born there.
Yeah. Now the Atlantis thing, there's a belief that Atlantis sat between South America and Africa, or somewhere around there in the Atlantic Ocean. And that when the continental shift, when there was a huge continental shift, and it's Antarctica, and like the people of the Antarcticas knew that a disaster was happening. They were moving further south. They were not going to be able to live there, so they went underground. But they had set up a backup plan essentially for eventually coming back to the surface, which is why now people have noticed that the ice is melting underneath at a faster rate than on top. So it's like some mechanical monster has been awakened and it's thawing the ice like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Well, they fearmonger that stuff too about, ancient viruses being down there.
I believe that actually.
Oh, it could absolutely be true. I'm just saying, like, that's another reason why they deter people from going.
I fully believe.
Yeah, we covered that.
Yeah.
Do you remember
talked about?
Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, I was just going to say that Baba Vanga, we covered prophets there a couple of weeks ago, and she predicted, that some ancient viruses were going to come back on the earth. She was the one of the ladies that we covered. Then also this year, we've had those anomalies that have been going in between South America and Africa, coming from the direction of Antarctica. Glam Ham has covered those.
They're radar anomalies. If you're not familiar with that, like Stephen said, Glam Ham, I think she has a YouTube channel and a TikTok where she covered a bunch of the big radar anomalies. It looked like she said to make that kind of anomalous radar blip, it would have had to have been like a 2,000 or 200 foot wave or something crazy. But down in that same area, there is also Bouvet Island, which is the most remote island in the world. And whenever all of this was going on with the radar anomalies, and we kind of talked about this a little bit with how could they stop anybody from going to Antarctica if they wanted to. So Bouvet Island is kind of like a central to the Arctic, and I mean it is the most remote, but it would be the perfect place for observing like just the vast expanses of oceans around there. There's a known HARP facility on Bouvet Island. If you're not familiar with what that is, go back and check our weather manipulation episode out. But there's totally, I personally think that the big blobs that people were seeing on radar were probably HARP sound experiments.
Yeah, very well could have been. It's Doppler radar. It can put a lot of energy into the atmosphere as well.
Yep. Easy had a good. He's like, what if there's a super collider that's eating at the ice? That's an interesting theory.
I mean,
wow, yeah,
it's as valid as anything else. I mean,
I mean, us as normal people that don't get to go to these places will never truly know unless they finally just break down and say, yeah, this is what's going on, which is kind of what they're doing with the UAP stuff, but even if they did, I think I'd still be in the same situation now to where I kind of still don't believe them, even though they're saying it's true. Like, I just can't, I don't know. I'm a hillbilly, and we are not told the truth a lot. You know what I mean?
I mean, Bouvet is, I just looked it up. You can draw a 1,000-mile circle around Bouvet Island that would contain no land whatsoever. And it wasn't until 2012 when a YouTube videographer discovered a mysterious HARP signal that was emanating from the general direction and figured out that they had because the island itself is super rocky all around it. So it's pretty impenetrable. It'd be the perfect place for the evil lair to be. And any kind of, especially any kind of like a detection station. I don't know anything about this next one, but do you all remember hearing that there were earthquake devices in Antarctica?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anything about that theory. I just someone brought that up once, and I thought that was interesting too. Basically, that they're same as the HARP facility, that there was some sort of weather manipulation facility on Antarctica where they could basically use Antarctica as a platform to cause events to happen in other places of the world with frequencies like subsonic underground frequencies to, hence the earthquake device, like to cause earthquakes or whatever they wanted to do, tsunamis.
Well, I mean, Tesla had an earthquake machine way back when.
That's true. I forget about that.
And it's untelling what they did with his documents after the new coming president's uncle stole them or confiscated. I mean, it's really untelling how they built upon all his technology. I would say that a lot of everything that's down there is probably his or stems from it. And everybody knows he was from Venus, so. Yeah.
But back to the admiral's civilization that he found.
Yeah.
So you said that they could be like the blue eye, white hair civilization.
Well, that's what he was searching for in Tibet. They told of a civilization in Inner Earth that were the original Aryans, or what they called them. And the original Aryans, I think Iraq even kind of supported it. Like, yeah, we're the original Aryans. We have the original Aryans.
Oh yeah.
And so he probably went there, seen the symbol, stole the symbol, and he probably found the original Aryans. Like, it's completely possible. He put billions of dollars into it, and that time's money for expeditions like that.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing about the Aryans is that the Aryan culture, it went from India to Iran all the way into Europe.
Yeah.
It took in. It was a lot bigger space than what people think of in modern times.
Yeah.
And the fact that they have found, like those mummies that are like 6'6" and they have red hair and all that, on the Silk Road, what they call the Silk Road to China. That's that's, to me, all that would kind of play into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Well,
kind of plays into
Yeah.
that kind of plays. No, I'm sorry. That kind of plays into Tartarian stuff too, because they say Genghis Khan was a Aryan and he was redheaded and everything. But
there's and I can't just it would take me a minute to produce this, but there is a lineage document from it is from Tartary, like the actual country that existed, that actually has the family lineage going back to the Mongolian Empire, like that Mongolians kind of maybe transcended into the Tartarian Empire.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
it's really interesting.
Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's really interesting to find out how many people are actually related to Genghis Khan. It's a really high percentage of people in the world.
Yeah.
Because
that document. So the only place in the world that has a Tartarian museum is Russia, because it was in the central hub of Russia is where the Tartary existed. And if you look at, I believe, the Russian flag, you'll have a person stabbing a griffin.
Yeah, spearing it.
And the griffin was the Tartarian flag symbol.
Yeah.
But it was out of those museum documents that they have a picture of the lineage of, it was the royals of Tartary, and they claimed that their ancestors were Mongolian.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, really. It's just so strange that all these structures appear across the world, and they're very similar. The writings in them are very similar, like the hieroglyphs. And what makes Antarctica any different? Really.
Well, when you were like the Aryan sort of thing that you were talking about, the blue-eyed, white-haired extraterrestrials, reminds me of in 1957 the Valiant Thor case.
Yeah.
He was a blue-eyed, white-haired extraterrestrial that allegedly landed a spaceship near Alexandria, Virginia, and requested to meet with U.S. government officials, including then President Dwight D. Eisenhower and Vice President Richard Nixon. And it's claimed that he actually stayed near the White House in D.C. for a while. While he was talking to him, but they said that he was around 6 feet tall. They say, like, if you look at the stories now, they say he claimed that he was from Venus, but Venus doesn't necessarily mean a planet.
Right.
It could just be like a far off land, like the lands beyond Antarctica that Bird was talking about.
Yeah.
But he claimed to have had a lifespan of over 500 years and possessed extraordinary intelligence and psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Jackie Gleason, I'm sure all of you are familiar with that, maybe from Smokey and the Bandit or the Honeymooners and different stuff. He was good friends with Richard Nixon. And supposedly the way the story goes is that Richard Nixon asked him if he wanted to see the alien bodies one time, and apparently he showed them to Jackie Gleason, and that just completely about blew his mind.
Tore him up.
Yeah, it really messed him up, according to what the story is. Whether any of it's true or not, I have no idea. But there's a story floating around about Jackie Gleason seeing the alien bodies that Nixon showed him.
Here's apparently a picture of Valiant Thor. I think they've made a movie about him recently, because this was very hard to find right then. Used to not be that hard. But this guy right here is apparently Valiant Thor.
Yeah, he was supposed to be like a really clean cut dude. But I mean, if they thought he was nuts, that was the time period where they would just throw you in an asylum somewhere. So it's very strange that they let him hang around Washington,
Yeah.
claiming to be an alien. I like your drawing.
He kind of has a similar forehead to that big Russian dude that used to fight.
Yeah.
Was a 7 foot tall guy that used to be a fighter.
And they also, I know you mentioned this earlier, but there have been contact with various tribes in Argentina of blonde-haired, blue-eyed, very tall, kind of humanoid-esque people who are very strange.
And an unsettling amount of twins too.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of noise there. Like there's like the person who found them said that they had it keeps getting crazier. Like they said that they had the ability to make objects levitate. Like they talked about even like magic carpets that could levitate.
Like Aladdin.
Like Aladdin. Yeah. Yeah, but not just like that kind of stuff, but could levitate like massive items.
Wow. I haven't heard that one. That's pretty unique. With everything that the Nazis were doing, I don't put it past the experiments, the atrocious things that they were doing. It's untelling what they created out of that whole mess. Like, and they had a sick fascination with twins too. Like, it's untelling how many twins met their demise with the rest of everybody that did. That's such a bad topic. but yeah. So in Argentina, you're right. It's not now. It's known.
Yeah.
That a lot of them escaped there. I mean, there's no denying it now. They even talk with Russian dialect, and some not Russian but German. Some of them do.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And I cannot remember the exact number of U-boats that were never accounted for, but there were quite a few U-boats that they never did find them.
So. Yeah, they were dragged on shore and made new bunkers in Argentina. But I mean, if anybody's like an Antarctic expert, we would most definitely go back over this. Anytime.
Yeah. So. I just, a lot of times you get into scholarly Antarctica, like people who actually go, I'm sure it's a lot different.
Yeah.
Like, they have the tourism spot where people can go, and the population is usually 1,000 to 5,000 people that are there.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned the other day, you can be a mailman in Antarctica if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's totally like a normal spot, but that's not to say that in this vast expanse of, what we're told to be desolate area, there could totally be, underground operations going on.
Yeah. I do know one person who has been to Antarctica, but I cut out.
You cut out bad.
There you go. There we go. You're back.
You're back.
Okay. I won't repeat that.
No, go for it. I want to know what you said.
No, I just say that I know one person. I personally know one person who has been to Antarctica, but he only got to go to the bases there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We interviewed somebody one time that was in the military and went there, but he told us everything we believed was wrong. But rest in peace, buddy.
He's passed now.
Yeah.
Well, we have Doc.
Yeah, well, we asked him how far he went. He's like, "Oh, we had a little area that we stayed in."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's 5.5 million square miles. If you're staying on 30 acres,
Well, and that's what I don't like is, people go there, they spend the time in the little town, and they're like, "I've seen everything. Like I've seen it all. There's just penguins."
Penguin brought me a pebble. Now we're interlocked forever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, you'll find that when we talk about certain things, our mics will cut out randomly. Like my mic was having some trouble earlier.
Yeah.
And it's only like certain episodes when we talk about certain things that we have weird problems.
We have a buddy that used to be a member of the CIA, and every time he comes on one of our shows, my internet doesn't work.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Shout out to Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the worst connection every single time he comes
Oh
on.
yeah.
I'm sure he's under some kind of NDA, like indefinitely.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee you.
We bring up some of this stuff to Scott sometimes, who retired from the CIA. He wasn't just in it for a little bit, and he'll just like smirk and act like we're crazy, like not say anything about it.
I just like that he confirmed that birds are probably not real because because he was at a CIA conference and he's seen the drone birds in the 90s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's one thing to say that the government has drones that look like birds or bees or flies, but it's another thing to say like that all flies are drones.
Right.
It ain't. But I mean, we could get into some off topics about Antarctica. We can get in some cryptids and ghosts. I mean, what you guys been not?
Nothing. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Only thing I got to do is watch some wrestling.
Steven's got to go eat at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When I get through with the ribs, I'm gonna smoke a turkey. Yeah. So hopefully that'll turn out good.
Do you roll them up or do you put them in a pipe?
Smoke a turkey. Yeah. So what do you got for cryptids?
Yeah.
I gotta stop.
Have in Antarctica.
I gotta stop being amused with myself for a minute.
It's hard to do.
It is. So, all right. So we know that there's quite a few crazy things in Antarctica. There's one thing called the Ningen,Ningen. So the story goes that a guy was working with the Japanese government, was assigned to Antarctica to complete some research. So whenever he was down there doing this, he noticed a submarine off land. He's like, well, that's strange. That shouldn't be here. So him and his team went out to investigate, but it was not a submarine. It was a creature that was about estimated to be 20 to 30 meters long, which I think is like 40 to 60, right? 60.
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like
I
that.
don't know.
Times 3. In American. Because we don't use the metric system here because we like being difficult. But it was entirely white in color, and it was in the shape of a humanoid, which was strange. Now, there's different reports. Some say that it has arms. Some says that it has legs too.
Well, how do you mistake it for a sub? Was it like laying down?
Yeah, it's laying down. Now, there are some artist render pictures. This right here is one that they supposedly say was real, but I think this is probably, AI. But this is one thing that they say is it. Right here is a actual artist depiction of it. This is what they kind of seen. Was something like this.
They saw a merman.
Yeah, something like that.
It almost looks like some sort of genetically modified beluga whale.
Yeah, it could be. It could just be a deformed beluga whale. They kind of thought that's what it was, but the thing that really set it off was its facial features, because it has, the eyes, a slit for the mouth, and something that resembled a nose. It didn't have any holes or anything, but it had a bump.
Weird.
Yeah. So that's basically. I didn't really see many more accounts of it.
The furry thing picture looked like. I mean, I've never seen an AI picture look like that. Usually, you can tell the rendering looks a little different. That looks like an old picture.
Yeah.
Lando, if you're still out there, what do you think?
Show it again.
Real or fake?
Is this artificial intelligence or is this just an old picture?
What do you all think? Go ahead and drop it in the comments.
What do you think that looks like?
It if it wasn't so big in description, it looks like those it puts you in mind of those cryptids that are all face with arms and legs.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's what I first thought of, was that cryptid there. I know, Tully, I know you covered that.
Yeah, it was a cephaly.
Yeah.
It was a type of cephaly.
Yeah, but looking at the size of the upper body compared to the legs, it reminds me of Gru from Despicable Me.
Yeah, I keep looking at it and just imagining a Great Pyrenees with great long legs that it's walking on. Like
it's cold and it's got its arms tucked in.
Yeah.
Well, Harry said it may be a biomechanical suit, which we talked a little bit about that yesterday. It could be a time travel.
That could be.
But yeah, it's a pretty neat one. That's the only one I really found. There's probably more.
A seal with very
I mean, it could be a model legs. It goes on for miles. But yeah, it's a weird creature for sure. I wouldn't want to run across it if it's like 60 feet long now. You know what I mean? I don't want
no, I want no part of that.
No, not at all. But that's the cryptid. So the ghostesses.
Yeah, the ghost would be really interesting.
I found another one.
What'd you find?
It's called Organism 46B. And I guess it was just, which the screen is like blinding me, but
I really wish that I could be allowed to name a lot of these things like that, because I've heard of like government experiments and they're like, oh, this is unit 6294. I'm like, I want to name something. This is UMW24689.
This one's called Rick.
This is Ricky Dwayne.
But this creature, designated Organism 46B, was an aquatic beast allegedly captured by a Russian scientific team near the research outpost Vostok Station. It was an enormous 33-foot long, 14-tentacled squid-like creature which lived beneath the ice near the station in the Antarctic. They said the animal had limbs that were animate and aggressive even after amputation. So they must have, they must have got a hold of it at some point. It said that they could release a toxin into the water to immobilize prey from a distance of up to 150 feet.
Neat.
And displayed an astonishing degree of shape-shifting, very similar to what do you call it? Octopi, like how they can kind of squeeze into tiny places and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a picture, but it's not a very good, like, I don't even know what to make of it, honestly. So I'm not going to share it.
Well, I mean,
it just looks like ice to me.
I mean, there's a thought that, like squid and octopi are not of this earth. Like the DNA they have, the intelligence they carry is kind of strange. So, I mean, it could just be some bigger form of whatever they recently said has come out of the ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They said that, here's how they know. They said that a member of the team managed to lop off one of 46B's tentacles. Although severed, the limb continued to try to attack the group, and later in the night, it slid across the ice bank and started trying to strangle somebody. It also, let's see. There's another account where it says that it had a crazy shape-shifting ability up to the point where it could shape itself into the form of a human diver in the water. And he said, this person says, we thought it was one of our colleagues swimming toward us in scuba gear. And by the time scientists realized what it was, like it was able to get a hold of them.
Neat.
That's terrifying.
It's only neat, Cecil, if coming after you.
Come after me, bro. Nah, I'd be scared. I get scared easy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. This is completely off topic. You might have heard me. You might remember this, or you might not totally. I only talked about it once. And I was when we let our dogs out back one day, we heard a terrifying scream out there. And I've been watching this show on HBO. It's called Paranormal something. And they watch videos of strange things. And I heard that exact same scream, and they're like, "Oh, that's Skinwalker for sure," things like that. But I live in Kentucky. Wouldn't it be more likely like a Wendigo or something?
It could be, yeah, Wendigo.
Yeah, it could be,
Or the rake.
Yeah.
I keep my rakes in the garage. No, it was terrifying. Like Mandy was standing at the back door, and I just heard it sounded like a woman, but like some kind of strange bassy undertone.
People would definitely tell you it was a big cat. Like if somebody.
Well, I live in southeastern Kentucky. There's not supposed to be any big cats, and it definitely was not a bobcat.
There totally have been big cats. They may say that, but all of the quote unquote panther sightings.
Yeah.
Almost every state in Appalachia has a panther cryptid for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely exist, and the fact that I know that in southern Ohio, you definitely have a dog man. I've actually seen a picture of a dog man from southern Ohio by somebody that I believe is probably one of the best cryptid people in the world.
That's just totally in his old lady role playing.
I'm hoping Tully has more than 3 toes on each foot, though.
Yeah, I do. Thankfully, something that that could be Antarctica related is the big bloop from 1997.
Yeah, the bloop.
And if you're not familiar with the bloop, it was an ultra low frequency. The National Ocean and Atmospheric Administration caught in 1997 in the South Pacific. The size of the bloop compared to that of a blue whale, if it was an animal making the noise, it would have had to have been many times larger than the world's largest known creature. Let's say like a Leviathan level underwater creature.
I mean,
Cthulhu.
I'm sure we nuked it too. That's one thing about humans. Like they caught that big squid. They're like, oh, cut tentacle off.
Yeah. See what it does.
Oh, there's a big bloop. Let's drop a bomb on it. Yeah. It's very strange how the human mind works.
Yeah.
But I get it. To a point, if there's a titan living under the ocean, you kind of don't want it to come above the ocean, right? You don't want it to come on land. So
very true.
There was a specific sighting in 1958 they didn't really name this one good. Well, the Japanese named it, and I guess it's not translatable. It just says large Antarctic sea mammal.
Pretty good.
And well, they did have a nickname. I guess the ship's name was the Soya, and the captain of the Soya named it Antarctic Godzilla because they said that the appearance was akin to Godzilla. And on February 13th, 1958, is when they encountered it. But there's not a lot. There's not a lot more about that.
No description.
No description other than just a massive Godzilla-like creature.
I mean, that's fair enough. Everybody knows what Godzilla looks like.
Oh yeah, that's Some speculated, that's what Kim Jong-un was shooting at last year when he was trying to keep Godzilla back in the. That's in the ocean.
He watched the movie.
He was making the South Koreans nervous.
Um,
Oh, man.
there are. What did you have as far as paranormal stuff goes?
Well, there's actually a couple things on Ross Island. I titled this "The Ghostesses" because it's plural and it aggravates the hell out. I totally want to do that.
No, it's when you say ghost when you're talking about mini ghosts.
Yeah.
So there's one that's in Ross Island. That's in Antarctica. Of course, it's let's see there, and it's home to a scientific base called McMurdo Station. Ross Island is also the site of a devastating plane crash that killed around 257 in 1979. Now, when visitors come to the island now, they say that they hear ghostly footsteps and voices in the dark. And this is the scariest thing about it. People tend to walk outside, to catch, pretty night lights and stuff like that. But there's numerous accounts of when people go outside, they can see the figures from the flight in the distance, just wandering around like disoriented shadows. Like they don't know where they're at. They're just walking in like aimlessly in the dark.
And you said that was supposed to be like one or multiple?
Multiple. Yeah, they just see people walking in the dark like little shadows everywhere.
And you said it was from a plane?
Yeah, that crashed in 1979. They must have been going there to do research. But
oh, dude. Okay. So that plane crashed at 300 miles an hour and killed 257 people.
Yeah.
So that's probably why there's a lot.
Yeah.
Of, that's crazy.
Could you imagine, like, because you can't smoke indoors anymore? I do, obviously. But like if you're like, I'm gonna step outside and take a smoke, and you walk outside and you just see like a few dozen shadows like kind of walking around outside, and there's not supposed to be anybody else around.
I'm gone.
Yeah. I'd finish my cigarette, but I mean, I'd at least hotbox it.
Well, there was the schooner Jenny left port in 1823 and was never seen again until a whaling ship made a horrifying discovery years later in the Antarctic. Apparently, the Jenny had become trapped in the ice and the entire boat was frozen. Crew from the whaling ship noticed people on Jenny's deck, but when they boarded, they realized the people had been frozen solid and perfectly preserved. And apparently the last entry left in the journal written by Jenny's captain says, May 4th, 1823, no food for 71 days. I'm the only one left alive.
I mean, it sounds like he had plenty of food.
Well, he obviously didn't. It obviously wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah, evidently he didn't think Donner's Pass was a good idea.
I mean, I think about them
So I
folks
guess
that
that would have been later, wouldn't it?
yeah. Think about the folks that crashed in the Andes. They didn't want to do it. They did it out of necessity. And he had plenty of water, obviously. There was ice everywhere.
I've got another one, too. In the early 1900s, race was on to reach the geographic South Pole. And in 1911, there was a British explorer named Robert Falcon Scott. What a name.
Yeah.
But he and his team set out on the Terra Nova expedition and set up camp at the edge of the Great Ice Barrier, the ice wall, maybe.
Yeah.
While some men stayed behind with supplies and shelter, the rest of the team ventured forward. A rival reached the pole about a month before this team, and in 1912, Scott and 4 other men he had selected to join him perished on their way back to the hut that they had from frostbite, gangrene, and starvation. On May 29th, 1912, Scott recorded his final journal entry. Every day we have been ready to start for our depot 11 miles away, but outside of the door of the tent remains a scene of whirling drift. I do not think we can hope for any better things now. We shall stick it out to the end, but we are getting weaker, of course, and the end cannot be far. It seems a pity, but I do not think I can write more. R. Scott, last entry. For God's sakes, look after our people. And what's crazy is Scott's hut apparently still stands. And people who have visited said that they feel uneasy, uncomfortable. People hear voices and footsteps around the hut, and some people felt like they were being watched. There's also a cross placed close to the hut in memory of a member of the expedition.
Mm,
Man.
that's wild. The ghost of Shackleton.
Yeah, apparently there was a ton of these expeditions. There's another hut that's haunted.
Yeah.
Named after James Wordie, who was a chief scientist for the Endurance expedition. And this is almost a replica. It was built in 1947 after the previous building was destroyed and no longer used. But after hearing several reports, there's people who went to investigate because it's still apparently like it's perfectly preserved. Like there's canned food in here and everything from the 40s. But members of the people who went to investigate it said that there was frantic flipping of an old light switch, slamming of doors in the hut, jar lids falling off shelves on their own. And one person said that they felt a presence and everybody else looked and started nodding in agreement and they left.
Nice. There's one called Shackleton's Hut. It's a historic site near Cape Roads. This is also on Ross Island. This hut was built by Ernest Shackleton, who was also an explorer. Surprise, surprise. He built this for his party during the winter of 1908. And now Shackleton's hut on Ross Island is said to be packed with paranormal activity. Famed explorers Sir Edmund and Hilary Bird claims that they actually seen Shackleton in the hut. Bird's account says that when they opened the door to Shackleton's hut, the ghost of Shackleton himself approached them in the form of greeting, and then in a flash disappeared.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Strange.
This is something that we haven't hit on yet. So apparently, and we can get to the how here in a minute, but apparently Antarctica has subglacial ghost mountains that nobody's ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the Gamburtsev mountain range. And they're supposed to be the size or bigger than Europe's Alps. And it says that a group of Russian explorers who traveled to the continent in the 50s observed strange gravity fluctuations coming from below the ice. Now, I don't know what that entails, but it was this mountain range that they say is hidden below a 3-mile layer of ice that was causing gravity anomalies.
Wow.
And this puts me in the mind of, do you remember like 2-3 months ago when they said that there's a volcano in Antarctica that's shooting out monoatomic gold?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just like these random things that they say about Antarctica. Like I don't know how in the 1950s that they could say that these mountains were causing gravity anomalies. Just like I don't know, like who's going and seeing this volcano that's spewing gold. And reporting back on it. And are they collecting the monoatomic gold? You know,
they should. That'll definitely help out. It's kind of like the episode South Park, though. Whenever the alien came to South Park and dropped off a bunch of space money, and they started building water parks and shit in like Mexico and stuff like that. Money, things like that, are only valued at what we say it is.
right?
Yeah.
Money's illusion, man. Except I still need it to pay my mortgage. So
Exactly.
but yeah, I didn't. That's really interesting. That resource that takes millions upon millions of years is just flowing out of a fucking volcano in Antarctica.
Yeah. And monoatomic gold. There's a like if you just go on Rumble or somewhere like that, or BitChute, and pop in monoatomic gold, there's a really cool documentary on monoatomic gold properties. Like apparently the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with the alternate names called ormus, and people today even say that it has like health benefits and properties
Really?
that are crazy, like, you know, live longer, jump higher, that kind of thing.
Neat.
Very similar to benefits that you would hear about, you know, colloidal silver or something like that. And
The Jordans of the mineral family.
yeah, so there's a glacier that gushes blood.
Oh yeah.
What
Like how metal is that?
is that going to be similar to the flesh pit?
I can actually find a picture of that.
Yeah, there's a I've actually got one pulled up if you want me to show it.
Yeah, show that.
Um,
It's wild looking. I've seen it before.
let's see.
Right there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah,
is
there's
it-
just like a blood waterfall coming out of this glacier.
Oh, is that the one in Iceland?
This one is supposed to be in the Antarctic.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but you know, it's explained away with like it's probably like some sort of bloom that causes the coloration.
Well, it's a bacteria mixed with a mineral.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of strange things. I kind of like to see what they tested that at. It could be something like that. I mean, possible.
They say that the red coloring comes from salt water mixed with iron in the bedrock below the glacier, which takes on a blood-like hue when exposed to oxygen.
I kind of buy that. I do.
And scientists also discovered microbes living in the blood water, which is quite an adaptive feat. But it also means that the blood is somewhat living.
I believe that too.
I know that if you have a well water that has a lot of iron in it, it will change the color of your bathroom.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, for sure. Even your sink.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
hard water. Yeah, we grew up with a well, and I don't know why, but every time I took a bath, it was really dirty. But
You always have to wrap around the tub, huh?
So, okay, I found something that talks about the Lenin bust.
What's it say?
So it says the South Pole of inaccessibility is the point of Antarctica that's furthest from the sea. While the geographical South Pole is the point that gets the most attention, the inaccessibility pole houses something creepy. In 2009, scientists passing through the area discovered a random monument with a bust of Vladimir Lenin on top. Upon further inspection and some digging, they discovered an old Soviet military base covered by years of snow. So that's actually the top of a military base. The group is called Scientific Traverse, claims that the monument is, there's no way. They're claiming that that's made of plastic and was left on top of a chimney of a base used by Soviets in 1958.
58.
Really?
Yeah.
Why were they still repping Lenin though?
I don't know. There's a lot that doesn't make sense. That clearly looks not plastic.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, St. Petersburg was changed to Leningrad for a while, and then they changed it back to St. Petersburg. So I guess that was during a time whenever Lenin was still popular.
Yeah. Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
But that's Antarctica, huh?
I mean, there's a lot. Like we could ramble for hours about all the possibilities. There,
Yeah.
you know, there's been episodes where we've talked about like Atlantis and how they're very well, that could be an area where that civilization could have fled to. And if there are lands, like Admiral Byrd said, beyond Antarctica that are the size of the United States or greater, maybe there's some unfrozen land somewhere in there that an ancient civilization could have advanced parallel to us.
I really want that map with the lands beyond the ice wall, but you cannot find it anywhere.
It's no something that puts out those maps.
Yeah. I mean, it would be an awesome Christmas gift for somebody.
Stop.
Just I got you the map in black is all I'm saying.
Let me see if I can find a quick pic of this.
Good luck. But I'm still 50-50 on Antarctica just being an ice wall. I really am. I've never fully went to full flat Earth because I still kind of believe in hollow Earth too.
Yeah.
But who's to say that it's not a flat Earth with different layers too, like a lasagna Earth.
Yeah. Honeycombed.
Yeah, and they did that deep ground penetration to where they said there's mountain ranges bigger than Mount Everest inside the Earth. That's in scientific journals. So who knows? Who knows?
I found it. I'm just trying to find a bigger picture of it.
Along with the ocean that's bigger than any ocean on Earth, too. By the way.
Yeah, that's the. That was a really interesting thing. I remember reading that about Ed Byrd a long time ago, talking about whenever he went into the hollow Earth and how he saw a completely different environment than what surrounded it.
Yeah, so it's really a strange world. I think there's a lot more to it than what we've been taught.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, since we don't, I guess here's just a wild speculation on my part. Since we don't have any true pictures of what Antarctica actually looks like, do you think the ice surrounding Antarctica, since they claim that, who knows what the real truth is? So, do you think that's the ice wall protecting them? Because there was a time whenever some ships were actually made of ice because it had more strength than steel.
Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yes. Yeah, they didn't last very long, but I mean, there were actually some ships, and I think the government gave serious consideration to making some at one time.
So this is one map that you have to see before I show the next map. Those who believe in flat Earth, and I feel like we would be not in conspiracy land if we didn't at least touch on this, because people believe that Antarctica is a part of this ring here, and you can see this looks like very similar to the traditional globe, like America, Africa. So they believe that there's an ice wall surrounding most of it, but there is an area to get out, and that the lands beyond that Admiral Byrd was talking about would be like into the next level. And there's a YouTube channel and an author that you can buy these maps from on Amazon, I think. At least his books I know are on Amazon for sure. But there's a dude that does a ton of, and I'll give him credit here when I show this. He does a ton of flat Earth material, and basically claims that the map that you just saw on the flat Earth model is a part of, like, rather than planets, the people who believe in flat Earth believe in more of a, let's call it a realm rather than a solar system. Yeah. But that each kind of walled off realm, like think cells. So like each cell is a planet, and that like Mars or Venus would be just a land beyond the ice wall somewhere. But here's the second map, and this will show his name. So the map that I just showed would represent one circle, and all of these other lands are from, I forget where he says he dug up these stories, but his books kind of lay it all out of people who went through that gate or beyond the ice wall to discover all of these other lands, and people who believe in flat Earth. This is kind of the model that they believe in. There's the original kind of circles in the middle, and then yeah, I agree, Easy. But if you, and it seems even more so like that if you start reading his books. but we wouldn't be doing it justice, because people do believe that there's an ice wall in Antarctica, and beyond that, regardless of what we're living on, whether it's a flat model or a globe. You heard it straight from the horse's mouth of the leader of that expedition that said that there's something beyond Antarctica that hadn't been explored yet.
Yeah.
I think that interview, he died less than I think it was a year later. And then his son, in mysterious circumstances, but Nos Confunden is this person's name. But yeah, this is what flat earthers think, that, instead of planets in a solar system, we are in these kind of habitat zones. And once you leave, the known lands, you're in these other zones that are sometimes called names of planets, like how Valiant Thor, he said that he was from Venus. Flat earthers would think that it wasn't the planet Venus, but just a habitat, if you will, called Venus. Yeah. But yeah, that's flat Earth in a nutshell.
Looking at that kind of looks like looking at like a cell under a microscope.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, who's to say that's not the case?
In our very early days of this show, I don't know, 3 years ago or something, we talked to a hardcore flat earther, and he was very serious about the stuff. And that's kind of how he explained it, is, cells. And, he brought up all kinds of stuff. Like, if we're flying through space on a ball at ever how many miles an hour, how come the North Star never moves?
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that is what they'll bring up. They literally have an explanation for anything you can think of space related. Yeah. And it's cool. Like, it's a cool theory. Who knows? Like, until we can go up there on our own. I know that pop culture likes to mess with people, like the depiction of Pickard, who was the first person to ever kind of reach the edge of space in a weather balloon pod. There was a Super Bowl commercial a couple years ago where he gets up there so high and hits water, like the water's above, like the firmament.
Yeah.
So they like to pick at it in pop culture. And then you have all of the trouble with, the moon landing and Kubrick. And yeah, I think it just sows a lot of doubt. Like, even if they went, they definitely made some kind of big production of it to show the people, to do like a media tour, just to be like, we were the first.
Yeah, they sent somebody up there 2 weeks before to be ready for the landing so they could get a picture of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm when it comes to flat Earth and hollow Earth, I'm about 25 on them, and I'm about 50 that we live in just some kind of generated matrix of some sort.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me, the way that the world's going at this point.
Yeah. A simulation with
careful, you'll lose your internet. Yeah, I mean, these ideas are fun to entertain. You just have to be objective, like, believe what you can see with your own two eyes. Like, all of us kind of in this atmosphere of friends that we have, we've all seen and heard and seen strange things, which is why we talk about it. We like talking about this stuff, and we'll entertain anything and have any guests on that want to talk about any crazy stuff to a point. But
whenever people talk about crazy stuff and cryptids, like the Black Eyed Kids, for instance, I'm literally carry this picture around with me that Steven took. I mean, come on.
That was taken in the woods. I mean,
Yeah.
That was taken in the woods. That's a black-eyed kid hibernating, in my honest opinion.
Yeah.
So, there's some strange shit out there.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's crazy about that one is there was the exact same picture taken of that exact same place, and you don't see it in the other. Like you went back and took pictures.
Right.
I always love a chance to break out Steven's
Yeah,
picture.
I went back. Yeah, I went back on a Saturday and I went back on a Monday taking pictures, just to see, was I just imagining what's in the picture, you know.
I know this kind of looks like Coley that Steven took a picture of, but it's not because we live too far away. If you see this, I mean, look at this. This is wild looking. Let's see. Let's get good stencil here. Like, what do you think this is right here? I mean,
well, you can see the ears. You can see a snout. To me, it looks like a dog, like halfway standing up.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird looking. I mean, that has to be a dog man. There's nothing else I can think that'd be.
Oh, see, so I don't think I shared the most recent tracks with you.
No, not yet.
I need to do that. I shared it with Tully. I forgot to send it to you. But,
Yeah, we're open to stuff. We just, sometimes when we have guests on, which Stephen isn't a guest, Stephen's, one of us, but we've had guests on in the past that, we've talked, like there was the one guy that Cecil talked to. I had to drop off after like 3 hours, and Cecil talked to him for another 6 hours about how.
Can we talk about doppelgangers? Do you want me to show that picture, Tully?
Stop. Stop. But yeah, Cecil talked to somebody for like 5 hours about how dinosaurs weren't real.
No, dinosaurs were real. There's a mini T-Rex that lives in Texas. Yeah.
It's a one thing. I tried finding the picture last night. It's a guy that I know from Oklahoma. He has a cast from Australia. Now this thing is, I don't know. It's like it's really, really big. It's like a foot in diameter. Has claws on it. Somebody in Australia had seen the thing, and they went and they cast the prints that they found. It was a big lizard type creature, but it's huge. I mean, it is.
The cryptid circuit is going to be firing back up probably in March. They have the Loveland Frogman Festival close to, it is in Loveland, Ohio, and there's different depictions of the frogman. There's an eyewitness that I have talked to that says that the frogman that they saw, or what people call the frogman, it was a bipedal. She called it, and this person does not believe in cryptids at all. She was on her way to work and said that it looked like a bipedal 4-foot tall T-Rex. And it jumped the guardrail and hit the river, the Little Miami River. And in that same area, like around Loveland, they goes all the way back to the natives that lived in that area. They talk about reptiles that would small bipedal reptiles that were super mean that would terrorize the tribes in the area.
Wow.
Look at this. Did you see this, Tully?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's definitely crazy. Like, especially if there's nothing native in the area that would make a track like that. I mean, look at that.
Huh.
Yeah. That's about a mile, maybe a mile and a half from where I took the picture of the dog man. Like 3 years ago.
None of us believe that either, Mac.
I read that a minute ago. I don't even believe dinosaurs are real, man.
We should do an episode on that sometime, like the society that established the notion of dinosaurs and how none of the bones are real.
Yeah.
There's some fragments of unknown species that are totally real. But like if you go to a museum, they're all casts, like, you know, the full skeletons and stuff they have. But I do think there's a reason that there are depictions of dragons, wingless or otherwise, all around the world. And, you know, we talked about the Congo last week and how people see elephant-sized brontosaur. And there are, you know, old potteries and stuff that depict brontosaur. So I think some of it's real, but I don't believe all of it. And I certainly don't believe what you're talking about, Easy, like fossil fuel stuff. I think that's conveniently named to make it seem like it's a very finite thing, kind of like how they control diamonds and the value of diamonds. Like they'd be worthless if they were all released that they have.
Dude, this is wild because you can kind of see the dimples from the paw in this.
Yeah, regardless of what that is, it's massive. Is he saying that this is potential dog man?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. I'm sorry, I had to step away.
Sorry, Stephen. I didn't know if you were still there or not.
I should have turned my camera off.
No, you're fine. Flip them ribs, boy.
You're cooking. It's understandable.
But that's impressive. I'm gonna save that one too. From now on, I'm just gonna put everything Steven sends in a little folder. So whenever I talk about crazy cryptid shit and people's like, "Oh, believe you," I'm like, "Look at this." I know I got this.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few trail cams that I need to go check that I've been neglecting since August, just to see what I've picked up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's impressive. I like that. The one that has always impressed the most,
my
Black Kid. The black-eyed kid is one that's I'm like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, the story behind that, man. I found a tree bow, and I took a picture of the tree bow, and then I could see there was something else out there that, you know, the dead tree. It's like 30 feet long, and I was going to walk out there to it, and there was just a little old narrow drain is all it was, and I was going to step across it. Man, when I got to the edge of that drain, my skin started crawling. I couldn't take another step that direction. So that's the backstory on the picture. And the next day, whenever I came in, and I got home and I looked at the picture that I took, and I spotted that in there. And so I went back the next day and I took a picture just a comparison picture. And the tree that was like 30 feet long laid across there that was dead, it was gone. It wasn't in the picture the next day. And I thought, wait a minute. Yeah, so I had to go back on Monday and see if someone cut it up for firewood or what. No, there was no four-wheeler tracks, no tractor tracks, no chainsaw, no chips from a chainsaw or had been cut up or anything. The tree was just gone. So that was it. And I thought, I don't know. That's some of the weird stuff that you will occasionally run across in this right here.
Since we're just going over and talking about random stuff now, did I ever show you this picture of what I captured on my truck? Right here. So I turned off the porch light and everything, and there's this red light just chilling in the back of my truck. Right there. I still don't know what it was. I don't think it was anything paranormal, but it was weird because my garage light was off and I had turned off the light and turned it back on. And it just kind of stayed that same hue. And if Tully remembers, the light in my truck is actually blue.
Yeah.
So so it wouldn't make that red light right there. Still don't know where that came from.
Yeah, that is weird.
I love that truck, by the way.
I think it's probably high time for us to get another cryptid enthusiast, like somebody who's out hunting this stuff, or who's tracking this stuff. I should say. I always say hunting. Just most people who are out looking for it aren't interested in hunting, but hunting these things anyway.
Right.
Here's a fun picture. This is an exclusive of me when I was a toddler. right there for everybody.
I like that one. Yeah. Oh man.
But yeah, we so this is the November long show. Maybe for the December long show, I'll solicit some credible cryptid folks that we've met out and about at conferences and see if we can get a couple cryptid experts on to talk us through some different places across the United States where they've been and seen stuff. We haven't done one of those in a while. I think it's time for a cryptid adventure.
Yeah, I mean it's a. Yeah, I mean, there's a guy from Ohio that I can try to get in touch with if you would. Or if you've got some other people in mind.
Yeah, I never have reached out to the Kentucky Bigfoot. He's like the dude that wrote all the books and has all the casts. He's like Kentucky's premier Bigfoot man. But no, we would if you know any cryptid folks just scattered about, like we would definitely reach out to them.
Oh yeah, I could for sure. Yeah, just kind of give me a time frame, and it give me a chance to work on it.
Well, I know we don't have many weekends in December. It'd probably have to be the 7th or 21st for the December show.
Yeah.
We should reach out to Kumbo and see if he wants to come back on.
Yeah. I guarantee you Kumbo has a lot more to talk about.
Well, we'll figure out a good date and let everybody know ahead of time. If you don't join us on Fridays, we talk about weird news. Yesterday we went through the congressional hearings on the UFO UAPs. Stephen hops on with us sometimes. Morgana, who is absent this weekend, she's always on with us. But Fridays, we normally give a heads up on when our next show is going to be. So if you don't join us on Fridays, you should, because we talk about crazy stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't already follow us where you're at or wherever you're watching from, give us a follow. We post updates on Twitter. The show promos go out on Twitter. And yeah, we usually after the Friday show, we also do Weird Awakenings on the Weird Realities Network. It's more esoteric than the show. Like there's a lot of spiritual components and stuff like that. What am I missing?
You didn't give a shout out to my OnlyFans, but that's cool.
Cecil's building the OnlyFans empire. What is it? Is it just feet pics or what?
Oh no, it's everything, buddy. You see all of it.
No, but we just appreciate everybody coming and hanging out. We just kind of go as long as we want to on this one. But
yeah,
the Friday shows are quick rips. We do like 45 minutes usually.
Yeah, we try to anyway. We try to. But yeah, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe if you haven't done it, or if you don't feel like it, don't. It's your life. You do what you want to with it.
Free will.
Free will. I believe in it. And if you want to, you can buy us a coffee over there next to Tully.
Oh yeah, I always forget about the coffee. We appreciate the coffees. Yeah. We look at Landon's comment. Any coffees go toward just a StreamYard, pretty much. Our yearly StreamYard cost.
I do have to say, Mike Tyson does have a fine booty.
Listen, I've already seen so many conspiracies coming out about that fight. Like there was a linguist that read what's his face's lips afterwards, and he's like, "I've got your money," is what he said to him after he whispers in his ear.
It was 100% staged. I mean, I watched it. Like, I took a little nap, and then as soon as I heard the ding, I woke up and watched it. They both pulled back a lot, and Tyson did seem to get winded.
He's 58 years old, and I know because I'm in my 50s that when you get older, your legs are the first thing to really go. By the second round, Tyson he was already kind of gassed, and his legs got weak by the second round.
But I fully believe if he would have went all in the first round, it would have been over. He wouldn't have got gassed.
Probably, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can send you this video to play real quick. See something.
Emailing it?
No, I'm just going to text. Well, does it need to be emailed?
Yeah, man, I can't pull stuff off my phone.
Hang on, I'll send it to you.
Actually, I can. But I just remembered I can do that.
Oh, here, I'll still email it. Hang on.
All right.
And this is kind of a Temu situation where you may order something and it's like a grill, like a big grill, and then you get it and it's like a miniature grill, like what was advertised versus what you got type situation. And I saw this earlier and it made me think of those scenarios.
Does it need sound?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is him training and then what you actually got up top.
That's what I'm saying. If he would have went all in the first and second round, he would have fucking destroyed him. No doubt.
Well, and there's a couple points where he like pulls back mid punch too.
Yeah.
But giving credit to Jack Paul, to the Paul guy, he pulled back too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, there was times when Tyson was completely gassed that he could have laid him out.
Yeah, he could have.
Yeah, but it was completely staged. I mean, it was a moneymaker, right? Like that's what it was.
We got Temu Tyson.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had 72,000 people in Jerry World. So,
you know what? He got his $20 million. I'm not hating on him.
No.
No.
Even if he's like 80 and somebody offered him $20 million, he should totally come out of retirement.
I'll tell you one thing I'm not going to do. If I ever see him, I'm not going to be like, hey, I'm going to fuck you up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 70. Yes.
I can't wait for somebody to talk trash to him, like some random dude just out, like, he'll destroy them just out of principle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing to remember. Two people who don't get mugged usually when they're walking down the street are prize fighters and linemen.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. We appreciate everybody.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching us. Come back every Friday. Come on the Saturday shows. Please interact with us. We like it. We enjoy it.
Yeah, this has been great. All the comments and theories and suggestions. We love hearing it.
And if we're ever talking about something, you're like, I really want to jump on there. Just say, hey, I want to jump on there and send us your email. We'll shoot you the link. You
can come on and tell us a story. If you have personal like stories and we're talking about something relevant, just come on.
Yep.
Steven's froze.
I think he's found a cryptid. He's got that flashlight out. You found something?
Am I back yet?
You're back.
Still am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Yeah, I knew I froze up. I don't. Yeah, want me to make everybody hungry before we
let's see the food. We'll end after you show the food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, buddy.
Oh,
looking good.
Those ribs do look good.
And with that, everybody, come back and join us. And we love you guys coming in here and participating. And thank you for watching us, because we are watching